Breaking news today. NATO's Secretary General says Ukraine is making progress. The head of NATO said during his visit to Kyiv that Ukrainian forces are gradually gaining ground in their counter-offensive against Russian forces. At a press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said, "Every meter that Ukrainian forces regain is a meter that Russia loses." His remarks follow Defense Secretary Grant Shapps' impromptu visit to Kyiv for talks with Mr. Zelensky. According to the White House, Mr. Shapps talked about ways to improve Ukraine's air defenses in light of the recent Russian missile attack on the country's power plants. Mr. Stoltenberg added that he was constantly pushing NATO allies to increase aid to Ukraine and hasten delivery of equipment, not least air defense systems. Ukrainian victory over Russian blockade of shipping brings hope to world's hungry. Middle of last week, as reported by Ben Farmer, military leaders, diplomats, grain markets, and aid agencies around the world were closely monitoring the progress of an unremarkable cargo ship across the Black Sea. The resilient Africa made its way from the Ukrainian port of Chornomorsk through the Bosphorus and onto the Middle East while sticking close to the coasts of Romania and Bulgaria. A significant milestone had been reached by the 250-foot merchant vessel carrying 3,000 tons of grain. Flying the flag of Palau, it was the first commercial ship to enter and leave Ukraine since Russia reneged on a safe passage deal for exports and threatened to attack them. Following a meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine, the head of the UK Armed Forces stated that Vladimir Putin had lost control of the war. The Chief of Defense Staff, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, recently stated that the recent strikes on Russia's Black Sea Fleet in annexed Crimea are another example of how Ukraine retains the initiative, more than 19 months after Moscow launched its full-scale invasion. Putin is losing the war he started, and as a result, Russia is weaker, he continued. The comments were made by Admiral Radakin during a surprise visit to Kyiv with Defense Secretary Grant Shapps. Fearing that Russia will use long-range missiles and drones to target critical energy infrastructure in the coming months, Mr. Zelensky reportedly discussed bolstering air defenses in Ukraine with Mr. Shapps. "It was an honor to meet with you today," the Defense Secretary said, adding that Britain would continue to stand, shoulder to shoulder, with Ukraine. In southern Ukraine, a power plant was attacked by Russian forces, causing damage. Overnight, Russian shelling reportedly damaged a heat and power station in southern Ukraine. A statement from Ukraine's energy ministry contradicted earlier Thursday reports from Ukrenergo, the country's national grid operator, that said the plant was a thermal power station. The Ministry of Defense has announced that shelling has damaged a combined heat and power station in one of the towns in the southern part of the country. According to the report, the station was closed during the attack and a nearby warehouse caught fire. It also noted that the fire had been put out.